about what's going on in your respective schools. So thank you for being here. We are a school corporation that develops knowledgeable, confident, and responsible citizens through inspirational and innovative learning opportunities. With that, I'm honored to share with you this evening that our Pledge of Allegiance will be given by Alex Pitts. Would you please come forward?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, parents, for being here. Our next opportunity on the schedule this evening is the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion for that?
I move that we adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Alexander. The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Likewise. Thank you so much. We will proceed.
Thank you.
The next item is public comments, and it's my understanding that we did not have anyone to sign up this evening, so we will move forward. The next item on the agenda is our consent items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Do I hear a second? Second, Mr. Russell. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent items. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, likewise. Motion carried.
We have one introduction this evening, I believe. Dr. Long?
Thank you. You already met Alex, so I'll introduce his mom. His mom is Sarah Pitts, and she just got approved as our new Director of Transportation. Sarah's been the Transportation Coordinator at Clark Pleasant for the last 3.5 years. We had 60 applicants from all over Indiana, a couple from out of state, and we narrowed it down to our best 6. And on Wednesday, January 27th, our committee split into 3 different groups. We interviewed, brought back the top 2 to the Superintendent's Advisory Council, and Sarah again was our top choice. As you can tell by what Alex was wearing, Sarah is a graduate of Purdue University with a BS in management, and she lives in Franklin with her husband and 4 children. We're really excited to have Sarah on board, and her start date will be April 8th. So Sarah, do you want to stand up?
Welcome, Sarah.
Do you have like that hour speech ready to go?
Yeah, I told her she had to present the redistricting plan now that we hired her. So.
Okay.
Good to
well,
have you.
Yes, welcome, Sarah, and we look forward working with you, and we know that you're going to enjoy Center Grove School Corporation as well as we all do. So thank you very, very much. The next item on our schedule, Dr. Arsenault.
Thank you, Ms. Toomey. This evening, our one and only action item this evening is the approval of the redistricting plan for 2019-2020. And I'm recommending that the board approve the redistricting plan as presented, and Dr. Long is going to provide you with some additional information.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always waiting for the, yeah. We're on a 5-second delay.
A little worried you were having a stroke or something.
It's close. There have been times. So, thank you, Dr. Arkanoff. So at the request of the school board, we held a meeting on March 28th with our redistricting committee to discuss the feedback the board had received ahead of the presentation of the recommended option at our February 21st board meeting and try to answer any questions. At that meeting, we discussed scenario 1, scenario 2, and also the recommended option. We discussed some of the additional data that I'll share with you that the internal group considered when making the recommended option as we're going to outline below. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. So this recommendation reflects many of the comments from our survey respondents and community work session participants. We had about 680, I think, total comments. We allowed 10 neighborhoods to remain in their current schools. It moves the least number of students of all the proposals, 1,218 elementary students and 141 middle school. It better balances our free and reduced, and it reduces our highest free and reduced numbers by about 7%. And we think it better balances the utilization of the buildings. Go ahead. It allows for a little bit of growth where we anticipate it most at Sugar Grove, Maple Grove, and Walnut Grove. Hopefully, this is Sarah's job, we'll provide a shorter write time, and Melinda, shorter write times for our students. Will eliminate the need for portable classrooms as a homeroom at all elementary buildings for the time being. It better balances our middle schools, and it allows for an additional preschool class at Sugar Grove. As you all know, Sugar Grove is the home of our preschool program, and our numbers, business is good. Our numbers continue to grow. We don't have any way to anticipate who those students are and when they're going to show up, but we have an obligation to accept them and to find a place for them. So we need to have space there at Sugar Grove. If you go to the next one. So this table takes the recommended boundaries and it rolls up our current enrollment for the 2019-2020 projections. That means we moved our kindergarten students up to first grade, our first grade to second grade, and on and on and on. So the projected enrollment that we show on this also includes transfers in and out due to special programs and factors in students who have transferred from other schools, both within the district and outside of the district. For the average capacity, we took an average of our minimum and maximum class ranges for each school. The capacity varies based on the number of sections in each grade. For example, if we have more kindergarten sections than fifth grade sections, the building capacity is reduced. If the opposite, and it changes every year, if the opposite happens and we have fewer kindergarten sections but more fifth grade sections, our capacity at those buildings then grows. So it's kind of a living, breathing number depending on the grade level of our students. Unfortunately, the kids don't come in perfect packages or of grade clusters based on our class size standards or in the neighborhoods we'd like for them to move into. Every year, the number of students in each grade varies, which is why we use a range of students per classroom when we create the number of sections that we'll have for each grade level. Average class size in our elementary schools ranges from 24 to 28, depending on the grade level. And like I mentioned above, sometimes, obviously we put less students in our kindergarten classes than we do in our fifth grade classes. Throughout the redistricting process, we intentionally use the low-end numbers for our capacities to ensure that there is space left at every building. And I know there's been concern about Pleasant Grove. So in reality, Pleasant Grove could fit 730 students if we were filling every classroom to the maximum number of students it could contain, which really puts us at an 83% utilization. In hindsight, I would say that using the low conservative numbers may have caused confusion among the community and even parts of our committee. This chart shows what the capacities would be. So the recommendation that we showed previously was based on 24 students per class in every single classroom. The bottom chart there shows the recommendation with every student rolled up. So we rolled every student up from first grade all the way up to eighth grade, and that changes those capacities and our percentages of planned utilization. So that's kind of the summary. The chart, the hatched mark shows the areas that change from the current boundaries, and that's our recommendation to the board, that you accept the recommended option.
Okay.
Dr. Long, I have a few questions, if you could
Sure.
bear with me. And I appreciate first all the questions you've answered for me, not necessarily at the board meeting, because I know I've been kind of peppering you with these throughout, just because I know we all want to get this one right. And first and foremost, I want to thank you and your team for all your efforts on this one. Thank you. And I think we are getting it right. Thanks to the committee, thanks to the community, and thanks to the efforts of your group. I think the data we have this time compared to what I've heard of prior redistrictings, I think put us kind of light years ahead. So nobody wants portables. Nobody wants to have to do this again until we open a new elementary someday if we continue to grow. So thanks for all that. But I do have a few questions on this chart. I look at here with Maple Grove. On the top recommendation, it said an enrollment of 621, and then it's increased on the bottom where it talks about up to 734. Do you see where I'm at?
Right.
Can you explain those 113 kids in Maple Grove?
Those are sorry. Those are the students that are in our special programs, so like ENL, EL, maybe includes our transfers in. So the above live-in enrollment numbers were only the students that lived within those boundaries. But as you know, we have special programming in different elementary buildings, and this adds those in there. And that's the data that we kind of overlaid over the top the last time to make sure that we were trying to account for every single student.
So in essence, then we wanted some extra capacity at Maple Grove, knowing that it would draw from the other, I hate to say north and south schools, but the other southern
Sure,
schools.
right, yeah. They will, just like North Grove right now, the ENL program and the EL program is at North Grove. So we pull students from Pleasant Grove, from Sugar Grove, and those students go there. In fact, this year, because of the imbalance, we brought some students up from the south to try to balance those programs out. So that kind of moves and fluctuates a little bit as well.
And the other one I noticed is Sugar Grove. It seems to have gone up from a 646 to a 677. Do we have an explanation as to why that is higher than the live-in enrollment?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, the transfer students.
So there are some students that transfer.
So there are students, there are about 70 students that transfer in.
Okay, and could you remind me on transfers, anyone can apply.
Right.
Once you're in, if you're in as a kindergartner, that's honored through
We
your
let you
entire-
stay, right, and all the way through. Now, in the future, moving forward, we will probably limit the ability to transfer into some of our schools. Sugar Grove is a good example. We'll still honor the request, and if it's an internal transfer or an external, from outside of the district, we have to honor those transfer requests by law, but we don't have to accept any more transfers. And so we'll probably not do that at Sugar Grove. And then they'll kind of, as they roll up, they'll process out, and then those numbers will drop down as well.
And I also notice on the recommendation, we have ideal capacity, and then the second chart, we have average capacity, but those numbers didn't change with the middle schools. Did we already make that kind of change with the middle school in the last draft? Because I remember seeing an earlier draft where we were well over 100%.
We did. Remember, we were using, I think, 27 or 28, and what we found is that the actual is closer to 30 is what we were actually doing. And so
Students per class?
Right. The average class size was about 30. So we made that change in the last recommendation to show that. We just didn't want to go through and start changing numbers and kind of in the middle of the whole process. But we did do that after we found that at both schools, the class size was closer to 30. So we had reported the capacity at both middle schools based on what we were actually doing there.
Thank you.
Right, the top's the current one, and then the bottom is the recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Long. I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have other board members who have questions?
I think you just answered all the same questions.
Did I steal your thunder, Mr. Alexander?
You're fine. So I do want to thank Dr. Long and Stacy, wherever Stacy's gotten to, for answering all of our questions. I had some concerns when I was seeing Pleasant Grove at 99% capacity, and it didn't make any sense why we were going to redistrict a school at almost 100% capacity. So thank you for the additional explanation and taking the time to, you know, show what the actual projected 1920 enrollment is.
Well, and, I'm sorry, I wanted to say, you know, when you ask those questions, it makes us go back and look, and it's really a good thing. We appreciate being able to go back, and because it kind of helps us show our work and make sure. So, you know, as you know, we went back and looked at our enrollment at Pleasant Grove for the last 10 years.
Right.
And we realized that we've had well above what we've shown there without having to use the portables. But it was good information to have. You know, 10 years ago, we had 435 students at Pleasant Grove, and we've redistricted twice to try to keep those numbers up, so we keep the utilization in our buildings level throughout the corporation. So, but it reminded me, and plus Stacy reminded me, but it helps when we go back and look at that data. So I appreciate the opportunity to try to answer those questions and try to poke holes in what we're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, you know, the other piece of this is, while no redistricting process is perfect, while no scenario is going to make everybody 100% happy, this is the third time around that I've been through this process. And, you know, while there's some things we can learn from the process that we just went through, I think, you know, kind of where we've come over the last 8 years since I've been on the board as part of the redistricting process to how we did it this time around. We've come a long way in that, in how we approach it, the thought process, the committee, you know, being formed and put together. So I'm appreciative of the strides we've made just in the process in doing this. And, you know, I've said this multiple times over my 8 years on the board. I wouldn't hesitate to send any of my kids in any of our schools. So, I mean, they're all quality schools. They're all great schools. They have great staffs, teachers. You know, so any one of our schools, the kids are going to get the same quality education. And I would send, and my kids went to Pleasant Grove, so I would send my kids to any one of our elementary schools.
Thank you. Are there other board members who have comments or questions? Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I just have a real quick comment. I just want to thank you for taking it back to the committee one more time. I know we kind of, at the 11th hour, about 3 weeks ago, did that. And I know that kind of caused some unforeseen bottlenecking for you guys in regards to kindergarten roundup and things like that, how that delayed a lot of things, which kind of hurt some things down the line. So I appreciate you doing that and just making sure that we do have it right. You know, just kind of reiterate what Scott said. I know that not everybody's going to be happy. We're not going to make everybody happy, but, you know, we have to trust the data and trust kind of what was presented to us, that we're making the right choice for the community.
Further comments by board members? All right.
Just briefly.
Yes.
I can be brief. The other benefits of this, we're a growing district. We've got a brand-new school coming in. This is an exciting time. So I think we're truly blessed to be in a situation that we're in. So we can't lose sight of that and lose sight of the fact of, you know, the community effort, the committee effort, your effort. When I say you, Dr. Long, it's you and your group, and everyone else to come up with what we think is the best plan. And I truly believe, I walked in thinking scenario one was best about a month ago, and from additional data now I'm to a point where I understand why those changes were made. And I'm not an easy sell. So I do appreciate the efforts and taking that extra layer of data.
Thank you.
So I truly believe that this is best for the corporation and for the students as a whole.
One of the things that both you and Mr. Alexander talked about is taking data and then learning from what we've done. And one of the things that we've not kept, and it's just because of the way the software works skyward, we're going to keep address information. So if you moved 3 times while your kids were enrolled at Center Grove, the last time you moved and updated your address is the last address that we have on file for you. So as we look at what kind of student yield we're going to get out of neighborhoods, we're going to start keeping that data, and we're going to forward that on to cooperative strategies. So then we'll be able to look at our neighborhoods and say, boy, typically we've gotten this many students out of this neighborhood and this many students. So it is a learning process. We get better, I think, every time we do it. But I wanted to tell you that that piece of data will, I think, the next time we have to do this will make it even better.
And, you know, I'm reminded of something that Mr. Henderson has said repeatedly since he's gotten here, that we have first world problems. And in all honesty, this is a first world problem that we have. We're a growing district. There's a lot of challenges with that. There's a lot of opportunity with that, but thinking of through all the alternatives that we see in other school districts that aren't growing and are shrinking and the problems that creates for them, these are wonderful problems to have.
Thank you. Further comments by anyone? Dr. Long, thank you and your community for all of the work that you did, all the time that you put into this process, and we're very grateful to you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a question, a motion for approval of the redistricting plan.
Madam President, I move that we approve the redistricting plan as presented as the recommended option.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the proposed redistricting committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, likewise. Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have, our next item is other business. Is there any member on the board who has other reports or stories that you want to tell about the other committees that you're involved in? Any other reports?
Not since the last meeting.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Our announcements this evening, spring break, in case you haven't put that on your calendar already, March 18th through the 29th. And then kindergarten for registration is April the 11th at all schools at 6:30 p.m. The gala, which is something that you all need to experience, this is scheduled for April the 13th at the Indiana Roof. And we cherish your presence there. I can almost guarantee a fun evening, and of course, it's to benefit our school corporation. Superintendent Coffee Chat, April the 16th at Strange Brew. And our next regular board meeting is April 18th. We'll be right here in this room at 7 p.m. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Yes, Mr. Hubbard.
One announcement to add to that is tomorrow night is the Dine
Oh, that's
at
right.
Central 9,
Yes, thank you for that. Are there other
6:30.
announcements? Okay, then, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, likewise. Motion carried. And we are adjourned. And once again, thank you for your attendance this evening.
We only have one parent.
That's hard to believe.